I'm pretty.
Desirability, attractiveness, being a freaking hottie. What does it all mean? No, but for real, what exactly does it mean to be considered desirable? What does that do for you if you are not considered desirable? How does one move from being desirable to non-desirable or vice versa? And what role, of course, does the society around us play in all of that? I've been wanting to have a proper video about my thoughts about desirability and analyzing it, and I couldn't figure it out. You know, it was just floating in the air. ASMR, it was floating in the air. But then I realized that I know exactly how I want to go about doing this. So we're going to analyze this topic of desirability through 3 different characters. 4 technically, because, you know, some personal shit at the end. But before we get into all that, bonjour, nakum, hi. Nieces, nephews, nibblings, aunties, knuckles, piblings. Y'all know what to do, but if you're new, feel free to take a look around, suss out the vibe. I just sit on my floor in my living room and talk about whatever I want. And today I want to talk about desirability. But you know what's really desirable? Not being funky, which is where today's sponsor comes in. Thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring this portion of today's video. So Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service where you choose a new designer fragrance every month for just $17, no shenanigans. And it's flexible so you can skip any month you want without penalties. Or you can upgrade. Instead of just getting 1 new designer fragrance a month, you can get 2 or 3. I got 4, and I was just kind of exploring different scents, different fragrances. My absolute favorite though is the Roberto Cavalli. So the reason I got this one was because it had notes of pink pepper. Who is she? Tonka bean. Who? An orange flower. And I was just like, that sounds like a nice little collaboration of scents to place all over my, you know, scent points, you know. And with each fragrance, you get a 30-day supply, so you don't have to actually commit to buying a whole bottle unless you actually want to. I've been thinking about not having too many things in like excess, and I think that just having a small amount of fragrance that you use, you don't need a bunch, you don't need a whole bottle, you can get one if you want, and yeah, it'll last a long time. But I don't know, I like the idea of just using a little bit for a month. I be telling y'all about changing your mind all the time. I'm gonna change my mind about my fragrance. What if I don't want to smell like Roberto Cavalli's fragrance, huh? What if I want to smell like Confessions of a Rebel? But listen, you can go to Scentbird, take the fragrance quiz, see what fragrance or fragrances you want to try out. Then click the link in my description and enter promo code Khadija to get 55% off. That's $8, y'all, for the first month. And also, Scentbird is in Canada now. All right, thank you to Scentbird again for sponsoring this portion of today's video, and let's get back into it.
I feel like I always knew I was a baddie because, you know, my mom's a baddie, and when your mom's a baddie, you gonna be a baddie. She always get what she wants, so I'm a baddie too. I get what I want.
So it was not as easy to find just a clear definition of desirability as I was somehow assuming it would be. But then I realized that you're describing something subjective, so it's gonna be hard to find like a pinned down definition. But a definition that I actually appreciated that kind of goes more to marketing than anything else. Desirability is a subjective factor that relates to taste and aesthetics. When a product or brand is desirable, users are attracted to it. Desirability is important because it keeps users engaged at the beginning, attracting them to interact with the product and find its usefulness and usability features. Now that seems very impersonal because it's talking about design, but to me that is actually a very good definition of what desirability can look like on people. And the first person I want to talk about that desirability with is Miss Ice Spice.
You thought I was feeling you? No, I was feeling you. That nigga munch. Either he ate it for lunch. Bitch, on my body, I get what I want.
So I learned about Ice Spice before I had ever even heard her music because on Twitter, there was just a lot of vitriol about this girl. I didn't know what she did, but it just seemed like the fellas were mad. Honestly, I listened to a couple of her songs. I'm not gonna say that they're like, oh my God, they're amazing, but like they're fine. They're like catchy little earworms, but a lot of people really can't stand her. Some people think she's an industry plant. Some people think she just sucks. People say that she's only popular because she's pretty, light-skinned, and only raps about being pretty. And I think it's really funny when I observe that, because to me, Ice Spice is the culmination of decades of women in rap becoming popular by rapping about their desirability. It's about their ability to get what they want with their bodies and not need these men, technically. I'm not saying it from a judgmental place, because I will be singing drugs. Never a flaw. Boom, 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 boom. A different kind of high. There's no judgment. And this is not to ignore the amount of hate a lot of these women in rap have gotten by the same token, because desirability is a trap. But if a female rapper isn't leaning into desirability, how many of y'all really listen? I'm just asking questions. So here comes Ice Spice. If you look at Ice Spice, she is exactly what a lot of rappers that I heard growing up would idealize. She's light-skinned, or what's the difference between yellow bone and red bone? I don't really know. I just thought the terms are interchangeable, but maybe they aren't. And I don't mean to be rude by that. I just grew up hearing that a lot, you know? She's curvy in the right places. She's young. And she's hypersexual. This the kind of girl y'all say y'all want. This the kind of girl y'all rap about. And this is the kind of girl that gets popular in this genre of music. But a lot of people don't like it because her music's mediocre, quote unquote, and she's a plant. And she looks very unbothered in her music videos, like she's barely trying, like she's just relying on pretty. But if she's growing up around a genre of music that's telling you the way to get what you want is through being pretty and your body and all of the things, why wouldn't she be relying on it? Especially if she's a young girl in her early 20s. This girl is a child, y'all. Also, if she's just exploring her sensuality, leave her alone. She's a child. Oh my God. Anyway, Ice Spice stands in her music videos looking disinterested, touching herself, sticking out her tongue, just being an all-around bad bitch. And again, I'm not sitting here saying the music is amazing and y'all are just haters. Like, no, I can agree with you if you think the music is meh. But some of y'all need to unpack why you're using this girl's music being mediocre as an excuse to lean into talking shit about her at every chance you get for doing the very thing y'all expect women in rap to do, or you will only popularize those women in rap to do. Exhibit A of desirability being a trap. Ice Spice.
Here's the house. It is green and white. It has a red door. It is very pretty. Here is the family. Mother, father, Dick, and Jane live in the green and white house. They're very happy. See Jane? She has a red dress. She wants to play. Who will play with Jane?
So for this video, I went back and reread parts of the Bluest Eye because Pecola Breedlove is another character that I think really fits into how strong this need of desirability can be, particularly if you are a person that is not seen as desirable, that does not have that benefit at your disposal. Pecola Breedlove is sort of the protagonist, or more so the back of the story the Bluest Eye is held on. There are a lot of really difficult themes in this book, but one that is the central theme, or one that sticks out a lot, is the idea of who is desirable and who is not, and what happens to you if you are not desired. It was originally a short story that Morrison wrote, and then it became a full novel, but she was speaking to a friend, and this friend was talking about wanting blue eyes. But Morrison had a very visceral response to this, saying in the foreword of The Bluest Eye, "Who told her? Who made her feel that it was better to be a freak than what she was? Who had looked at her and found her so wanting, so small a weight on the beauty scale?" That word freak is very strong, of who told you that it would be better to be a little dark-skinned black girl and have these blue eyes Who told you that you were so small on the beauty scale? Pecola Breedlove is that character, is that little girl. She is poor, she's dark-skinned, she lives in a storefront with her parents who are in a very abusive relationship, and no one seems to really care about her. The thing about Desirability is that it can be a very warm, very gratifying feeling to an extent. But when you don't feel that warmth, when people don't just look through you but don't even see you, that has to do with desirability as well, or more so being undesirable. When we meet Pecola, she's living with another family for a little bit, and she has this deep desire to have blue eyes. It's all she wants. It's all she prays for. It had occurred to Pecola some time ago that if her eyes, those eyes that held the pictures and knew the sights, if those eyes of hers were different, that is to say beautiful, she herself would be different. Her teeth were good, and at least her nose was not big and flat like some of those who were thought so cute. If she looked different, beautiful, maybe Charlie would be different, and Mrs. Breedlove too. Maybe they'd say, "Why, look at pretty-eyed Pecola. We mustn't do bad things in front of those pretty eyes." At points in the novel, it seems like she's trying to even ingest whiteness, drinking almost 2 gallons of milk out of this Shirley Temple cup, and talking about this love of this Shirley Temple and this doll, this white doll, the toy that all the kids would want. Adults and older girls, shops, magazines, newspapers, window signs, all the world had agreed that a blue-eyed, yellow-haired, pink-skinned doll was what every girl child treasured. Here, they said, this is beautiful, and if you are on this day worthy, you may have it. Throughout this entire book, you see what this weight of invisibility, what this not just undesirability that Pecola, the body she lives in, is a reminder of. She's put in this place because she is everything that the yellow-haired, pink-skinned, blue-eyed doll isn't. Because she lives in a world that has decided that her features are the opposite of that, and therefore the opposite of desirable. And what does that do is what Toni Morrison asked to the most vulnerable amongst us, a poor child. The death of self-esteem can occur quickly, easily in children, before their ego has legs, so to speak. Couple the vulnerability of youth with indifferent parents, dismissive adults, and a world which in its language, laws, and images reinforces despair, and the journey to destruction is sealed. To be a little bit more specific, throughout this book, Toni Morrison is talking about this grotesque dehumanization of an entire race of people, Black people, and she uses Pecola as a manifestation of that. What happens to the most vulnerable amongst us when you're thinking about the hatred of an entire group of people, or the grotesque dehumanization is a better way to put it, of an entire group of people. In exploring the social and domestic aggression that could cause a child to literally fall apart, I mounted a series of rejections, some routine, some exceptional, some monstrous, all the while trying hard to avoid complicity in the dehumanization process Pecola was subjected to. The end of this book is one of the most heartbreaking book endings I've ever read, because at this point, Pecola has been tricked into thinking that she finally does have these blue eyes, but she actually just is in psychosis. And she lives on the outskirts of town with her mom. She spends her time amongst the, quote, waste and beauty of the world, looking through the garbage. All of our waste, which we had dumped on her, and which she had absorbed, and all of our beauty, which was hers first, and which she gave to us. All who knew her felt so wholesome after we cleaned ourselves on her. We were so beautiful when we stood astride her ugliness. Her simplicity decorated us. Her guilt sanctified us. Her pain made us glow with health. Her awkwardness made us think we had a sense of humor. Her inarticulateness made us believe we were eloquent. Her poverty kept us generous. Even her waking dreams we used to silence our own nightmares. And she let us, and thereby deserved our contempt. We honed our egos on her, padded our characters with her frailty, and yawned in the fantasy of our strength. Yawning in the fantasy of your strength. It's no big deal. It doesn't really matter. People don't tend to realize the effect their words and actions have on others that they may never meet, may never interact with, or others that they have that they don't even think about. Not even taking the time to think about what damage it could do to a child to feel undesired by an entire society. That's what it's giving. When you talk shit about people who present differently in terms of their bodies, in terms of their genders, in terms of all of it, and children are around to hear that, makes it a little more difficult for them to even try to feel okay with being slightly different, slightly quote unquote odd. I feel very strongly about this because I was a Pecola. I was and felt not just undesirable, but hated for being in an undesirable body and being a reminder to people around me that I was an example of of the antithesis of what not just beauty and desirability, but therefore care and affection and that universe of obligation meant, simply because of the body I was born into, because I had darker skin. I was reminded constantly that there was no reason for me to take up space or be anywhere when I didn't even know what it meant to be dark-skinned or black or anything. But I was told that whatever it meant to be that, whatever that was, it was wrong. Whatever this skin was, it was wrong and bad because it was so undesirable, because it was so almost taboo, which is fucking insane. And then when I was abused, it made it even more difficult for me to say something because I had the impression of who's going to believe me because who would want to abuse me? And I've said before that this is something Aubrey Gordon talked about in What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat. How fat folks that will be victims of sexual assault or abuse will often get met with the, well, who would want to abuse you? You're fat. And not necessarily in those exact words, but basically, who would want to abuse you? You're undesirable. A lot of us need to really think about these conversations that we're having about people's looks and bodies and what is desirable and what isn't, and what that does to children that are around to hear that stuff, what it says to kids about what is right, what is wrong, and then what they go and regurgitate in school. Because the kids that bullied me, the adults that bullied me for the way that I looked, weren't just learning this out of thin air. It wasn't just something that happened to come out of thin air that they just hated. So who taught it to them? Who told them? When you plant the seed of desirability in the most vulnerable of us, what does that do? Because it'll always change. Exhibit B for desirability being a trap. Pecola Breedlove.
I ain't like you. You don't care what nobody think of you. You're strong. I'm just pretty. That's my only strength.
P-Valley is one of my favorite shows that I have started watching in 2023. I came late, I know, but better late than never. This show is freaking incredible, and I will spoil things. I'm sorry, so if you don't want to hear it, skip this entire section, honestly, because it's going to spoil the whole thing for you. I'm sorry. But honestly, even if it's spoiled for you, you have to watch it because the performances in this show, mein Gott. One of the most, characters is one Keyshawn. Keyshawn is a stripper at the Pink who is very talented, very beautiful, and in a very delicate and soft way, especially for considering what she's doing, how powerful she is, the acrobatics. Oof. Stripping is obviously a job where you have to be considered desirable to work there. You have to be a pretty girl to work at a strip club. That's just the facts. And pretty will be subjective, but you have to be quote unquote pretty. So Keyshawn is in an industry where she does get paid based off of how she looks. Also her ability, I do think, yes. But even in the first episode, Uncle Clifford, who runs the Pink, says to her,
I don't know why y'all have to just let these just put your money like this.
That's what he doing. Think you could tell me what to do with my money.
Girl, hey, this is your money. Right here. Right This is your strength. You let him take this away from you, I don't know what you gonna do.
Because turns out that Keyshawn is in a very abusive relationship with this white devil named Derek. Ooh! We find out in season 2, episode 4's White Nights that she grew up basically being the ugly, dark-skinned stepchild. She's got a light-skinned stepmama who loves to let folks know she's light-skinned. If you grew up in the South, you've met that type. You've met that type. But Keyshawn is invisible at home. She's invisible at school. People just aren't checking for a dark-skinned girl. And here comes this white knight who finds her desirable, who finds her beautiful, who seems to be, based off the way the story was told, the first man that's actually given her this kind of attention.
Derek
First meets her by beating the shit out of a dude that was making fun of her, but technically making fun of him, and then he spat on him. So it wasn't really about her, but anyway. Of her sisters, she's the only one that doesn't get asked to this Winter's Ball thing. Because P-Valley loves an allegory, and I love it. Is the only one that doesn't get invited. And then Derek shows up like a Prince Charming with a dress that fits and shoes that are just her size, and everything looks custom and it's great.
Keisha.
He makes her feel cared for, seen, and especially beautiful. But this is where the other part of the trap comes in, because all around her, Keyshawn is shown that if you are beautiful, that is what will save you. That is what is the most important thing. That is what is prized. You need to be considered desirable to people. She talks about in one of the episodes, in the first season, I believe, episode 4, when it's Mercedes' last dance and Mercedes is kind of giving her a bit of a pep talk.
But if this casino thing go down, where I'ma work at? What I'ma do?
What you wanna do?
I ain't like you. You don't care what nobody think of you. You're strong. I'm just pretty. That's my only strength.
So you see that this character has believed and bought into, okay, well, this is all that I have. So much so that in the second season, this is a couple episodes after White Night, it's called Savage, Derek is beating her. And the scene is already difficult to watch, but then he pulls, and y'all, again, I told you, spoilers and trigger warnings. Like, I'm just going to put a trigger warning in this whole section. So if people this whole video is going to get a trigger warning. But anyway, he takes an iron and puts it up to her face, and she starts screaming, "Please, anywhere but my face." She is in an abusive relationship. She has 2 kids screaming in the background. This man could very well kill her. And the thing that she is worried about the most in this moment, and the thing he knows he can take away from her, is her beauty, is her desirability. Because she is not only a dark-skinned girl living in Mississippi, she is poor. Her family has abandoned her because she had a baby out of wedlock early, and she is on her own with this abusive man. Derek, as a character, knows that his wife is beautiful, knows that she is a desirable person, not just because of her looks, but the video's focused on looks, so. And if he can't have her, have it, no one will. I've talked before, I've said this in another video, again, another trigger warning. This whole video is gonna have trigger warnings, so just get into it. I've talked before in a previous video about how I had dealt with sexual assault, and the whole time the person was telling me that I was beautiful when it was happening, and it was very jarring for me because I had, up until that point in my life, been made fun of, ridiculed, told that I was ugly, undesirable in every shape or form you could be told, hit, anything, spat on, all the things, and then was completely invisible, which was like a saving grace because it was like, okay, peace. And then went a complete 180 into being stared at and told about my attractiveness, and it really fucked with my head, in all honesty, especially because of that person saying it the whole time, because I was thinking, okay, I've never been considered attractive or beautiful. Now I am. And at first it was fun, but this is what it gets you. And I want to be very clear in saying, I know that was not my fault. And I do not think that anyone deserves any sort of abuse or assault just because they are quote unquote attractive to the person that did it. Like, that's not at all what I'm saying, or that anyone should expect to be treated that way because of their attractiveness. That's not at all what I'm saying here. What I'm trying to say is that it is a trap to want to be desired simply for the way your human shell looks. Because people are very strange about wanting to be around, next to, and possess beauty in a way that I have a very difficult time articulating. But here we fucking go. Maybe it's the clout that comes with being around or amongst someone that is attractive. Maybe it's just the idealization of what that means for you as a person to be with somebody that is that way, or around or desired by somebody that is also desirable. I don't know. But either way, it's always a trap. It's always a moving target, because as well, who and what is considered desirable changes over time, changes where you are in the world. You could be considered desirable one moment and then another you're not. If you are a woman or if you're feminine presenting and you age, people talk a lot about how that desirability kind of goes down. If you go from being straight size to fat, people talk about that desirability going down, or feeling like that. I should clarify, feeling that way. And on one end, it's great to be in the category of desirable object, but it is just that, object. It's not the fullness of who a person is. And listen, we all love to be objectified from time to time, depending on who it is. Maybe not we all, but some of us do. But on the other end, it's like there are folks that don't get to feel desirable, like a quote unquote desired object, that are detested for how they look, that are seen as quote unquote ugly and undesirable just because they are the opposite of what is considered desirable at that time. How many fucking times am I going to say desirable? So that's why I say it's a fucking catch-22. Nobody knows what they're saying. We should all just learn that we don't know anybody, that these are human carcass shell whatevers that are just presentations, and that people's really need to start focusing inward maybe and understanding who we are as like freaking celestial beings. I don't know. Y'all. Anytime I talk about beauty or desirability or something like that, why is it like I end the video like scrunched up, just over it. It's wild to wrap your head around the concept of beauty, honestly, to me, because it's a moving target. It's just kind of ever changing, ever evolving. And honestly, I'm freaking over it. So what I want more than anything for y'all is to find people that think you're hot and want to devour you if you're into that, but also like really care about you as a person and your spirit and all of that. Because trying to chase this moving target of what it means to be desirable, it's just a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you do, it might be great and maybe you're fine and it's all good, but it seems to come with trouble from what I've witnessed, because people don't know how to act. But if you don't, it also comes with trouble because people don't know how to act. So just, I don't know, if I can do whatever you want. All right. A lot of y'all have asked me to talk about more music stuff. As a side note, I actually do a podcast with the Philadelphia Orchestra called HearTOGETHER. That'll be linked below, so you can listen to me do some interviews. I recently did an interview with Babatunde Hip Opera. I did one with him. Part 1 is out now as well. Again, I was telling y'all, if you want to get merch and shit, you can. If you want to listen to the podcast, the first few episodes, or the first episode for season 2 is coming out this week, I believe. And if you want to check out Scentbird, click the link in my description. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I know y'all will tell me your thoughts below, so please do. Please do. This one was a bit of a doozy. I'm working on 2 really heavy videos. Well, this one wasn't heavy. It was just heavy because I had to get back into this book. But another one, it's also P-Valley inspired. It just, oof. Big tick! Ow! Okay, anyway. As always, be sure to feed your plets, water your plets, and remember that you can always change your mind because you can, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
What is desirability?
Or part 1 or whatever. Oh, God. I got a lot of energy. Let's rein this in. On people. I'll just say on people. I don't know why I put 3 air quotes because there's 3 characters. I'm so zooted.
I don't know why I smiled like that, but yes, those are my tooth gems. Nah.
It's all she wants is all she prays for, and then I'll read the quote. Okay. I think I said that right. Just put the quote in here. Just put the quote in. I was about to say Miss Princess Diana. Is she calling herself that? It was just a song, right? Never mind. Don't say that. Don't say that.
The lighting is great.
How do I want to say this?
Tell me I'm pretty.
No, take all that out. Take all that out. Her inarticulateness. Articulateness.
Tell me I'm pretty.
Pretty pink, baby blue. Why don't you teach me something new? We're all just babies in my view. So crawl, baby. Ooh, ooh, pretty pink, baby blue. Why don't you teach me something new? Oh, we're all just babies in my view. So crawl, baby.
I don't know why I decided to sing that song. That's so funny. Okay, I had an energy drink. I need to fucking go. Bye.